All right, Hunter, welcome back. It's games of the day or games of the next 2 days, as we tend to do here on Fridays. College basketball has been away from us for a week. I've been Jones and I've been missing it. Almost pulled the trigger on some bets last night, decided to hold off and say, let's wait till the weekend. We ended last week. Saturday was kind of the last day where there's a set of games. Did well on the betting front there. Got pretty lucky, though, if we're being honest, with overtime saving us in 2 out of those 3. But when you can get the sweep, you'll take it no matter how you can get it.
Yeah, we definitely got lucky, especially on that over. But, that's part of betting an over. When there's a close line, sometimes you can expect some crazy stuff down the stretch, whether it's fouling, whether it's overtime. You can never complain about a W.
Absolutely. And then, the Providence one, I didn't feel quite as bad about that one. Obviously, that was still somewhat miraculous in the sense that when it went to overtime, like when the Arizona game went to overtime, it was pretty clear the over was going to hit there, barring like a tight defensive session of overtime, which probably wasn't going to happen in that game. Getting the 6.5 over the line in overtime, you don't get that necessarily every day. But as you've said, that's where underdogs go to die. But the reason I didn't feel quite as lucky on that one is Providence was up 15-0 in that game. It felt like it was over right out of the gate. So I didn't felt like we did steal it, but it felt a little bit better in the sense that it was 15-0. I don't even know if you're watching at that point. I texted you. I said this is looking pretty good. It did not end up looking pretty good, but either way, that gets over the line. And like I said, nice to have some college basketball back. This will probably be the last time that we chat before I'll be heading down to New Orleans tomorrow for the Sugar Bowl. We'll be talking some Husky basketball here in a second, but any thoughts for the folks for this UW versus Texas Sugar Bowl matchup? How are you feeling? What are you thinking? Give me the viewpoint as a diehard Dogs fan on what you expect to take place on Monday.
Yeah, the national media is really getting behind Texas in a big way. It seems like just another UW game where no one's giving the Dogs a chance. Everyone's talking about how the UW line hasn't seen a D line like this, and the UW line won the Joe Moore Award, but that was a fluke. It's going to be a tough matchup. Like Michael Penix, when he gets moved off the spot, he's not as accurate. He definitely lets some balls sail. So if Texas is able to get pressure, it's going to be really tough. But at the same point, our O-line's been our strength all year. And when the O-line gives Penix time, he's surgical. We've got the playmakers on the outside with Odunze, Polk, and McMillan. It's in the dome. I think that bodes really well for us. I still don't know if I'm a believer in Quinn Ewers. Like sometimes he looks like he should be a top pick in the draft. And other times the wheels just kind of come off and he forces some balls, makes some bad decisions. So definitely, if you asked, would you rather play Texas, Michigan, or Alabama? Definitely Texas in this matchup.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I was at the Alamo Bowl last year when we played against Texas. Obviously, we're very familiar with Sark as a coach. And my girlfriend went to Texas. She'll be at the game with me, so a little in-house rivalry. But I've kept eyes on Texas a reasonable amount this year, just because she went to Texas. I've got a variety of friends that went to Texas, and I think there's times where this Texas team looks like world beaters. Some of those receivers get in space. They run punt returns back for touchdowns, pick sixes. Like they've got the athletes. They do things during games where you're like, damn, this team is impressive. And then at the same time, there's large chunks of the game, especially in the second half, where they just stop playing football. We saw a lot of teams make second half comebacks. They wouldn't even be in this position if Kansas State could have scored from the 2-yard line, 4 chances to score there in overtime. And that to me is what I think of when I think of Sark football. They've always got the great athletes, they've got the players, but it kind of ebbs and flows, and Sark kind of gets a little too creative sometimes on the offensive end. And to your point on the line, which has obviously been the conversation a lot, what Washington can do and hasn't been able to do for much of the season, because McMillan was out from the Michigan State game on until we got him back for the Oregon game, is Washington's ability to move you side to side with the motion and the ability to, instead of having to run the ball up the middle, it's basically a run play when you toss it out to McMillan, in the flat, and he could run forward and gain 6-7 yards. The UW receivers are great blockers, and I think the Texas secondary might be the weakest position on either side, offense, defense for both teams. And so, yeah, I think to just talk about like, oh, Washington's not going to be able to run it up the middle or whatever it may be, or the line, I think maybe takes away or doesn't give credit for Washington's ability to move you side to side with some of that motion and action that they can do with McMillan now back in the fold.
Yeah, the national media is not giving enough love to the skill position players on UW. Like Rome Odunze might go over Marvin Harrison Jr., depending on how the combine goes. Jalen McMillan's been a pro receiver. He got hurt this year, but before he got hurt, he definitely looked the part, and he's been coming back. Jalen Polk's got to be the best number 3 receiver in the country. And then you got like Jeremy Bernard, who's your fourth guy who can really carry the ball, get him out in space. He might be the best open field playmaker on the team. And then Dylan Johnson, he's just been running really well for the Dogs. So yeah, no one's giving UW a chance. I love it. I love the spot.
Yeah, I think for me, and we talked about this before the Oregon game, like the Oregon spread, the +10 or whatever, that was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. Made absolutely no sense. There was plenty of track record to say that didn't make sense. That was like an easy double hammer, all the hammer emojis on UW in that one. I think this game to me is a coin flip. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I think UW's guaranteed to win the game or anything like that. I think the spread, I think it should be closer to a pick'em game, but again, I'm not going to say it's a hammer spot. It's only 4.5. Some places it's 4, so I think that's fine. But yeah, I have confidence in this Washington team. They've find a way, and I think that's the other piece we talked about in the Oregon game. Like, if this game gets close, there's zero panic on the Washington side, and it's a game that should be close. So you got to like UW there, and I think what gives me the most confidence in UW is you give Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb 1 month to study tape. They've already played Texas last year, so they'll know some things that worked and didn't work. That, for me, is the biggest edge that Washington's going to have. Sark's a great coach, but I genuinely think DeBoer and Grubb is the best coaching combination in this game. So we will see. I'm excited to be there. New Orleans, New Year's Eve and New Year's. Either way, it's going to be a fun time. And like I said, I've got a recent amount of friends. My girlfriend went to Texas, so that rivalry piece will be fun too. But either way, like we've said all along, and I've said this since I think after the first Oregon game, who knows how many chances in your lifetime there is for the school you went to be in this position. So going to enjoy it either way. And it'd be awesome if we win. And if not, it's still been one of the best seasons, if probably the best season of Husky football for me. So can't wait. And we'll chat about it probably Wednesday afterwards. We'll give a recap. And if it's a win, I think we'll both be down there in Houston for the championship.
Definitely saving up for the national championship.
Yes, sir. Well, that is Husky football. We'll have some Husky basketball here momentarily because that's actually one of the games of the day here in college basketball. Still not a lot of great games on the college basketball front. Conference play going to kick off next week. That's really where things are going to really get going almost every day. Starting in the middle of January, there's going to be good basketball around the country. But today, couple of kind of West Coast basketball taking the forefront of today's action. The first game is a game being played in Spokane. It is San Diego State, number 36 in the VCI, at number 22 Gonzaga. The spread here -6.5 on the Zags, +7 on San Diego State, with an over/under in the 147.5 to 148.5 range. San Diego State 10-2, Gonzaga 9-3. Gonzaga continues to be ranked highly by the AP pool. I don't think those folks watch basketball. Gonzaga, if you took the names off of their jersey, called them Spokane State, I don't think they'd quite be getting that ranking that they have at this point of the season.
Gonzaga just hasn't looked the part of the Gonzaga teams. We've continued to talk about it. I think early in the season, we looked at the WCC and we saw St. Mary's as the favorite, and we did say there was value on Gonzaga because that's all relative, but Gonzaga doesn't look like they're in that upper tier this year. They still have time to figure it out. I think they still have time for freshmen to grow into their roles. We always talk about Dusty Stroman. They're going to need him to be really good because the team just doesn't have depth. I do think that their starting five can put it together. Like, I think Nemhard's still trying to figure out how to play that Gonzaga brand of basketball. The better he does, the less Nolan Hickman's asked to do, and I think that's a good thing. Nolan Hickman's a great player, but when he's asked to create, a lot of times he just makes some questionable decisions, whether that's turnover or a questionable shot. And then if they can just start playing through EK a little bit more inside out, Gonzaga is still going to be tough. I think I saw they're on like the 7 line right now. If March Madness was to start tomorrow, I don't think any 2 seed wants to see the 7 Gonzaga in the round of 32.
Yeah, and I think on the tournament front, this is an important game for Gonzaga. They're not going to get a lot of chances for good wins in the WCC. St. Mary's is fine, but they're not quite as good as we thought they were going to be. So Gonzaga without really a marquee win to this point of the season. Their best win is over number 57 in the VCI, which is USC, and USC is nothing special, it appears so far. San Diego State's best win, I think, might be Washington, or let's see who their best win is against here. Oh, St. Mary's. It's against St. Mary's. So San Diego State with a win over St. Mary's. That's when St. Mary's was down a little bit. But we look at the stats here. Gonzaga certainly with an edge on the defensive side of the floor. San Diego State offensively effective field goal percentage 223rd in the country. The Gonzaga defense 20th. We've talked about that before with this Gonzaga team that because they don't have the offensive efficiency, the flow on the offensive end that I think they've had historically, Mark Few has them focused a little bit more on the defensive side. They're 16th in 2-point defense with EK in there. The San Diego State offense 238th in the country in 2-point percentage. San Diego State middle of the road in 3-point shooting as well. And then on the other side of the floor, I do think, to your point, playing through EK, trying to get inside a little bit more. Brandon Huff as well for Gonzaga might be an advantage here against the San Diego State team. Gonzaga 17th in offensive rebounding. San Diego State about 150th in the country. 2-point offense for Gonzaga is 29th. San Diego State's defense 120th on the 2-point side. So I think there's certainly an edge here for Gonzaga statistically. It's not a massive edge. It's not a 6.5-point edge, I think, in the stats. But then you get this game in the kennel at home for Gonzaga. It's kind of a must-win situation for them from a seeding perspective, or to kind of lock in that spot in the tournament. So I'm going to take Gonzaga here at the -6.5. I think this is a chance for them to pick up that first real marquee win of the season for them. I don't love this team. It's not a great Gonzaga team, but I think the San Diego State team is fine. Jadon Ledee is good, but it's not the San Diego State team from last year. So very tough road environment always to go up there to Spokane. So I'm going to take the Zags here -6.5 in a spot where I think they can shut down San Diego State and then use the crowd to maybe get that offense flowing a little bit more efficiently than it has been so far this year.
Love the spot more than I love the team. I think we're both not as high on Gonzaga, but the game in the kennel coming back home, they've been down their last couple of games. I think a big piece is going to be Anton Watson. When he's knocking down shots from the outside, they're an entirely different team because he's so good at getting to the rim. He's so athletic. When he's not making those shots and teams are playing off, inviting him to take the three, it gets really congested. It's hard to get the ball into EK. So if he can get a couple of those threes to fall at home, that's really the key for Gonzaga.
Yeah, I can almost picture Watson like pumping up the crowd. He's hitting the threes. He's turning. He's getting people fired up. So yeah, like you said, this is more the spot than the team. I also think Watson matches up pretty good with Ledee, and they may be able to cancel themselves out there. And without Ledee, I don't really know how San Diego State's going to get a lot of baskets. So give me the Zags here -6.5. Not again, we're not high on this Gonzaga team, but we know the value that the kennel can provide for the Zags in this one. Next up is our Washington Huskies, who have surprised to some degree to me so far this year. Haven't really suffered any bad losses. They're number 60 right now in the VCI, but their worst loss right now is number 37. So nothing terrible has happened so far for the Huskies. And then there's Colorado. They're number 26 in the VCI. They've got a star freshman on the squad this year for them. The spread here is pretty high. It's -9 for Colorado, +9.5 for Washington. We were talking a little bit before that Washington has had success in Colorado. Historically, it is a tough place to play there at altitude, but Washington's done fine against them there. Any thoughts on this game, and maybe thoughts on this Washington team at 8-3 heading into conference play?
The vaunted mountain road trip in the Pac-12, always a tough one, going to Colorado and Utah. Definitely always love to go on the road the first week when there's not students, get those road games out of the way. I think we both like the Dogs tonight. 9's a lot of points for how well this UW team's been playing. This is going to be a real test for the Dogs. They haven't gone on a true road game like this into an environment, but UW's got the talent, and they just play out of control though, and Severe Wheeler is really hit or miss sometimes. But UW has the talent to hang around with a team like Colorado, and Colorado's a team where the computers have really liked them. But as far as the eye test, from what I've seen, they haven't blown me away. The freshman who's projected to go top 5, top 10, it's more potential than actual performance right now. Tristan Da Silva is really good for them, so Key will be stopping him. Keon Brooks is going to have to show up and play well. The big man rotation for UW is still really confusing. Kepnong and then Mia coming off the bench, and then Bryden Bach coming in with the sports goggles every once in a while, can step out and hit a three. I think Mia's got to be good for the Dogs to be good, and he has not been good to this point. But UW has the talent, no doubt about it. Like, UW did well in the portal this year, bringing in some guys.
Yeah, and for Colorado, it's that offensive efficiency that I think the computers like so much. We've seen the same thing with like in Alabama. The computers just love these teams with great offensive efficiency. But yeah, Colorado's best win right now is Miami. They blew out Miami, to be fair. But other than that, the average win for Colorado is 208 in the VCI versus Washington's 150. Average loss for Colorado 66.5. Average loss for Washington 33.7. So Washington certainly played the tougher schedule to this point in the season. Now Washington hasn't gone on the road and played a test like this, and we know how teams have struggled in that first road game. But to your point, students won't be there at Colorado. It's going to be cold outside in Colorado. Maybe that will keep some fans away from heading out to Boulder for the game. But yeah, the freshman, excuse me, for Colorado, Cody Williams, projected lottery pick. I agree with you. He's looked solid enough, but hasn't been spectacular. KJ Simpson at guard is good for Colorado. Ken Pom actually has him as number 10 right now in his kind of ranking. So that'll be a tough matchup for Washington. And then, yeah, Severe Wheeler. Very hit and miss, but he can give you 15 points, 15 assists in a game. Like, he's capable of doing that. Keon Brooks will be one of the best players on the floor in this game. And then the Washington shot blocking on the interior has been impressive this year. Washington 35th in shot blocking, and Colorado's a team that doesn't shoot a lot of threes. So they're 324th in 3-point attempts. So if Washington can force the ball into the paint and defend the rim, stay out of foul trouble, I think they can stay in this game. Washington shooting the ball a little bit better this year than they have in previous years. Right now, 83rd in effective field goal percentage. The Colorado defense about middle of the road. So purely on kind of, again, on vibes here, this Washington team's played close in all the games that they've played. I think they can hang in this game. I don't think this Colorado team's anything special. I think they're solid enough, but they haven't done anything. This would be one of the best wins so far in the season for Colorado. So 9.5 is just too much for me. Kind of feels like this Villanova Creighton game that we talked about last week, where we didn't love Villanova. We liked Creighton, but 9.5 was a lot of points. So I'll take UW plus 9.5 here. I'll be watching this game as well. So I will join you on the lean for the Dogs here, and Mike Hopkins looking for a potential marquee victory. If the Huskies could somehow go on the road and pick this one up, that would put them on the right side of the bubble and would carry plenty of weight headed into March as well.
Lenardi's got us first 4 out right now. A win over Utah or Colorado on this road trip probably moves us to the right side of the bubble. So let's go ahead and get the first one, and then Utah could be the icing on top of the cake.
Yep, indeed. And I don't have a side for this one, but I do have to note our McNeese squad is headed to Ann Arbor to play Michigan today. McNeese has been tremendous this year. Will Wade is back on the sidelines for the number 94 ranked McNeese. They're the Cowboys, right? That's what we've got.
The Pokes.
The Pokes versus Michigan. Michigan's 6-6. Things have not gone well for Michigan so far this year. A little turmoil on the sidelines, always the case there, it seems to be, for the Wolverines. But the line's plus 10.5 here. You can get minus 10 on Michigan. I like McNeese. I'd probably pick McNeese, but I'm not going to take an official stance on this one. But you are the heart of McNeese basketball, so just give us a feeling for this game and how things have been going down there in Lake Charles.
Love the opportunity for McNeese. They've been up there for a few days. They caught the Pistons game. Their coach, Vern Hamilton, he coached Cam Thomas and Trenton Watford at LSU. So the team got to go and see the Nets play the Pistons. That was pretty cool. This team's all in on this game. They flew out the day after Christmas. They're getting ready for it. It's the biggest opportunity in the game's been scheduled. McNeese this year actually had a lot of teams drop out from playing them once Coach Wade was announced as the head coach, but Michigan stayed on the schedule. So they've had this one circled, and it's the biggest opportunity for them of the year. And if they win this game, the whole country is going to be put on notice. I mean, people are already watching what's going on down in Lake Charles, and this is just a huge opportunity. And Michigan's looked susceptible. And you mentioned Juwan Howard's had some issues on the sideline. I don't think this team really plays together. And that's kind of like the marquee thing about a Will Wade team is like the togetherness. And they started bringing DJ Richards off the bench, and he's been playing better. DJ Richards, when he's hot, could be the best player on the floor. So they got Shahade Wells, the TCU. He's gone for 30 multiple times this year. I don't know. McNeese money line for me, maybe.
And you've got some positivity to back that up. I mean, when they went on the road to play number 83 VCU, they were also 10.5-point underdogs in that one. Just looking at the game log here, they won that game by 11. So McNeese has done it. Their stat profile in this game is hilarious. They shoot no free throws, they shoot no threes, and they get no assists. But the offense is extremely efficient. Great field goal percentage, great 19th in 3-point shooting, 52nd in 2-point. They don't turn it over, 8th in turnovers. Michigan forces no turnovers. McNeese 60th in offensive rebounding, Michigan 282nd. And then what Michigan does is they take away the 3 and they take away the assist. So on the offensive side, it should set up pretty well for McNeese. Also 318th in the country in pace. So McNeese is going to take the air out of the ball and try to be efficient on the offensive end versus on the flip side, this Michigan, we know they're just going to run up and down the floor. Doug McDaniel is going to be trying to drive to the rim. So yeah, it's going to be a fun game. I like McNeese here, but I'm not quite confident enough to take it, but I would lean McNeese here. I'm going to be rooting for McNeese. If they win, I mean, we look at the Southland Conference. McNeese is 94th. The next closest team is Nicholls State at 251st in the VCI. If McNeese wins this game, they'll have an outside shot at an at-large bid, even if they somehow blew it in the conference tournament. I would think, like, why wouldn't they? They could, because they could probably go undefeated in the regular season, and then they like lose a game in the conference tournament. They'd probably still be in.
Yeah, if they get this win, it's going to carry to Selection Sunday. And I think the bigger pieces, as opposed to the at-large here, is like what it can do for them on the seed line. If they win this game and then they go 18-2, 19-1 in the Southland and win the conference tournament, they could play their way into a 12 seed. And we know about the 12-5 matchups. McNeese definitely has the potential to get that high. I think their floor is like a 13 seed with what we're expecting them to do. So yeah, just a huge opportunity for the Pokes. Excited to tune in. Just a great opportunity.
And yeah, to that point, I think I saw Lenardi had them in like the 13 line in his thing that he does. And this is a conference that historically, like, these teams are either playing in the play-in game for the 16 seed or they're 16 seed or 15 seed. So that would be unprecedented for McNeese to move up that high on the seed line. But I agree with you. If they can get to the 12 and get in the magical 5-12 matchup, maybe catch a power conference team that didn't play well towards the end of the year, that could be something special. So a fun one up there in Ann Arbor, 4:00 tip at the Chrysler Center. Like you said, McNeese has been up there. They're taking this game seriously. And with Will Wade back on the bench, you got to be confident about that. So a fun one to watch tonight. And then one more game tomorrow on Sunday. Big East play getting back to work with still number 15 in the VCI, Creighton, at number 8, Marquette. This game in Milwaukee there. This line has just come out from DraftKings. It doesn't feel like enough points for Marquette. It's Marquette -4, Creighton +4, over under 147.5. We were talking about this a little bit before we came on. The stats actually, you could see the statistical path for Creighton here. They take away a lot of the things that Marquette wants to do. They run teams off the 3-point line. They make you play in isolation. They don't let you get to the free throw line. Marquette doesn't really get to the free throw line anyway. So I could see Marquette having some struggles, to score to some degree in this game. The Creighton offense still rather efficient. Marquette does surrender a lot of threes, like Creighton's 7th in 3-point attempts, and Marquette surrenders at 327th most. So Creighton's going to get the looks here. This Creighton team's not quite shooting as good as I think we thought they would, but only 4 points at Marquette. It's a tough home environment. They've crushed every team that they've played at home so far. Their only losses have been on the road in tough environments or down there in Maui. So this just doesn't quite feel like enough points for me.
Creighton's struggles have really come when they're forced into isolation because they're just really missing Nemhard, Shireman, Alexander, Kalkbrenner. Like, none of them are really creating their own shots. And Marquette's defense is just swarming, and Marquette's going to take away the extra passes, and they're going to make you beat them off the dribble. So yeah, love this spot from Marquette. Love the matchup for Marquette. Love the -4. I thought it should be higher.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to stop Tyler Kolek on Creighton? I don't know. Probably no one. Iguodaro is fantastic. Obviously, they got Kalkbrenner there for Creighton, but I love the agility and speed of Iguodaro versus kind of the not clumsiness, but he's not the most athletic player though. Kalkbrenner, Cam Jones, Chase Ross. Like, this Marquette team is the better team. I don't think there's any question about that. I think we're higher on this Marquette team going forward than we are on this Creighton team. Can't really fault Marquette. They went and played that game at Providence. That's always been a weird game for whatever reason for them, and it didn't go right, and this Providence team is pretty good. They lost on the road at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's looked pretty solid. I don't think you can hold that against them. And then, of course, they barely lost to Purdue in a game where they were in serious foul trouble the whole time versus this Creighton team. They beat Alabama, but we don't think Alabama's anything special, and that's about all they've done. They lost at home to Villanova. Like, it's so clearly a Marquette -4 line. Like, it's such an easy choice that it almost seems too easy. Like it doesn't make sense why it's almost -4. That's the only thing that would scare me here. But purely from like a logical perspective, I think the Marquette -4 here is a slam dunk. So I'm going to grab that as well. But we've always got to be cautious when things seem too obvious, because if it was that easy, we'd win every bet and we'd be millionaires.
Really like the Iguodala versus Kalkbrenner matchup for Marquette. Iguodala's got that push shot, and the thing about Kalkbrenner and Creighton is they don't foul. They make you earn it. They make you make the shot from the field. Iguodala's proven that he can do that. Like we saw him in Maui getting buckets. I trust. Yeah, don't understand the line, but not going to be scared of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. If Creighton runs Marquette off the 3-point line, which is what they want to do, and they want to force Marquette to get into the lane, Marquette's 17th in the country in 2-point percentage, because a guy like Iguodala is so great in that 8-foot range at tossing into the basket. Kolek's great at runners off the glass. He kind of, he drives left and he kind of hooks up or tosses into lefty. They've got those guys who can beat you off the dribble. So I'm still high on this Marquette team overall. We do the Big East tiers all the time. I think it's confusing now because of that first week of the season was a little bit crazy, but Marquette's certainly there a tier above this Creighton team. I mean, Creighton, we've talked about the edge for the Big East being the home teams, and Creighton literally lost a home game to Villanova, a team that they were 9.5-point favorites against. So again, it doesn't make sense. Maybe there's an injury for Marquette. Maybe there's something we're going to find out here in the next day that causes this line to make sense. But based on what we know at this moment, I think we've got to take the -4 and feel pretty good about it.
Love the -4 on Marquette.
So to sum up, 3 picks for us coming off of the sweep last Friday, Saturday games of the day. Moved to 40-21 on the year against the spread. We're probably due for a little bit of a regression to the mean, so I don't know how long it can continue for us, but Gonzaga -6.5, the Washington Huskies +9.5, those games tonight, and then we've grabbed the early -4 on Marquette. Yeah, those all feel fine enough bets, and I guess we'll see what happens.
Love them. All winners. Let's stay hot. I mean, why do we have to regress to the mean? Why can't we just keep making great picks and giving them out to the listeners?
That's true. Yeah, I feel confident in our abilities to keep a very profitable season going. The overtime gods are bound to strike us back a time or two. That's probably the regression that we would deserve, and so we'll see what happens. But yeah, why not just pick up another sweep? We swept 2 out of 3 days last week. Why not do it again? Let's see what happens. But yeah, Gonzaga -6.5, UW +9.5, Marquette -4. We'll keep our eyes on those, but our hearts and our souls are committed to Monday. Washington Huskies against the University of Texas at the Sugar Bowl. I'll be there, boots on the ground. I'll probably throw some tweets out about the vibes. If we win, the tweets will be, I'll probably lose a bunch of followers because I'll just be screaming about the Huskies so much. But like we've said at the beginning, you don't know how many chances you're going to get to experience it.
Our year.
All right. Thanks, Hunter. Enjoy your New Year's. Everybody enjoy your New Year's. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you next week.